you've built a bunch of forcing functions without which you wouldn't be acting that way, right? Because you put a gun to your head. You put some kind of thing in your life that forces you to do that. The gun to your head can be a friend. And that friend can be like, hey, we're playing 5-a-side football. If you're not there, we're missing a person and we can't play. So you have to come, even if you're tired, right?
Change your life on purpose. Purpose.
Greetings, humans. This is Change Your Life on Purpose. This is where we will rip apart concepts from psychology, philosophy, religious studies, media studies, really wherever we can find them, steal them, and try to use them in a way that positively changes life. And today the concept is to
brainwash yourself.
I love this idea. How? Well, I mean, first off, everybody else is doing it to us. We read books by B.J. Fogg and Nir Eyal. They worked at Stanford's Brainwashy design lab in Stanford University is right in Silicon Valley. They all learned how to make us addicted to these smartphones, and they did it fantastically well, right? So that same behavioral science is available if you want to use it on yourself, right? So this is about brainwashing yourself, and the main idea today is by choosing friends who help you become who you want to be anyway, right? So it sounds like brainwash, but really it's more like strategy, right? Okay, so this is from Atomic Habits. I'll touch on a few concepts in here. If you want the whole thing, I got a course for you. So basically, the concept of a forcing function becomes really interesting if you want to force yourself to do something, even when you're not really thinking hard about it. One version of this is a deadline. The greatest TED Talk of all time was Inside the Mind of a Master Procrastinator by Tim Urban. And he talks about how when there's no gun to your head, when there's no urgency, it's very difficult to force yourself to do something. The author Stephen Covey and 7 Habits of Highly Effective People talk about how the things that are important to us but they're not urgent always get overlooked in favor of things that are urgent. It means it's pressing on you right now, right? So how do we make this a person? This quote right here is something that I've heard a lot in my life. And this is when one of my friends who wants me to come and do something that I actually want to do anyway, like play a sport, jam, go to some sort of a social thing, go to the gym, go for a run. Like I can see the guys' faces in my head, people who have like pulled me into things that I really want to do. And normally they're like, come on, dude, let's go. I'm like, yeah, I got to do it. What do you got to do? Don't do it. Come on, come with me. Come on, let's go, dude. Come on, right? And when you have that kind of friend, it's so easy to succeed, whatever your definition of success is, right? Because they're pulling you towards something that you want to do anyway. Now, obviously, the opposite can be true too, right? Somebody can be pulling you towards something that you know you don't want to do and you know that you shouldn't do, but you go along with the group anyway, right? So this is a psychological truth that's very widely studied, very well supported. So the question of why would this work is a question that has a really strong answer that really nobody can argue with. My favorite version of this is Solomon Ash's conformity experiment, where he brought people in and he asked them very simple questions. He would ask them, how long is this line? And you were supposed to say, is it as long as A? Is it as long as B? Or is it as long as C, right? And now you can very clearly see that this is an easy, C, get it? That this is a very easy question. But what they did was they stuck people in the room with another 7 people, 5 people. They played around with the number. And they would have them all give wrong answers. And they were all actors, right? And there was one person who was the real subject of the experiment. And when it got down to that person, they'd be like, B. And, you know, there's a camera on them the whole time because they want to know what it's like for them to be fighting themselves and actually giving a an obviously false answer just because everybody else around was doing it, right? Now, we could go into this for a long time. This was his question of, similar to Stanley Milgram asking the question of why do good people do bad things sometimes, right? So there's a very dark background to all of this.
Social psychology is like a gateway drug to nihilism, but maybe we should do that another time.
What was the main idea here? How many people conformed? You'd wish that you were the one rebel. You were the one person who would not conform. But is that true? In Solomon Ash's experiment, 3 out of 4 people went along with the group, even when the group was clearly wrong. And on average, people conformed to wrong answers about 1/3 of the time, just to fit in. So this is a majority of people who will say something that they know to be false because everybody else is saying it. And the more people that you have, the more conformity that you have. Ash ran this experiment many times and in many different ways. What he discovered was as the number of actors increased, so did the conformity of the subject. That means the more people, fake people that are in there saying something that's false, if there was 20 of them, you got a higher level of conformity. If there's only 2 people in the room, you're all right with disagreeing with one other person. But if there's many people in there, you're like, okay, if this many people think I'm wrong, maybe I am, right? We've all probably seen the videos of 30 people running down the street, and there's one person walking with his briefcase, and 30 people are running away from something, and then that person's like, oh man, and then the guy starts running away with them, and we all laugh, like, aha, you got fooled. Well, let's be honest. Sometimes when 30 people are running away from something, they might not be wrong. It might really be Godzilla, right? Okay, let's keep going. If it was just the subject and one actor, then there was no effect on the person's choice. They just assumed they were in the room with a dummy. When 2 actors were in the room with the subject, there was still little impact. But as the number of people increased to 3 actors and 4, all the way up to 8, the subject became more likely to second-guess themselves. By the end of the experiment, nearly 75% of the subjects had agreed with the group answer, even though they thought it was obviously incorrect. Obviously incorrect, right? Not just, maybe I'm wrong. Obviously incorrect. And they interviewed them after to find out if it was obviously incorrect. And they said, oh, yeah, I knew it was wrong, but I said it anyway. That's very strange. They also had a control group, of course, where they had them go in alone and just answer the questions. And less than 1% of them made mistakes. Right? A lot of this shows up in Robert Cialdini's book, Influence. James Clear's section on this is basically coming straight out of Influence. We cover influence in the course. Who do we emulate? Cialdini breaks it down to 3 categories of people. We have the close, the many, and the powerful. Now, the close are people who are near us sometimes, right? If everybody's running off the train, you might run off the train too. Why? Following behavior of other people around you may have had us survive, right? There's a saber-toothed tiger over there. Do I need to confirm the saber-toothed tiger over there with my eyes? Maybe not. Maybe I just run away with like everybody else and I live to procreate and then, inculcate my children to do the same thing, right? Conformity lives on both in nature and in nurture. The many, as we just saw, if there are a lot of actors, we're more likely to conform. And then finally, we have the powerful. And this is something that we can use to brainwash ourselves by choosing who our role models are rather than letting industry choose for us. Right? And this is a great book. So James Clear's favorite example of this were the famous Polgar sisters. They were in a house that played chess all the time. All 3 of them became chess geniuses because they were in a family, which was this culture that made being a chess genius inevitable, right? It was such that they were living in a world where, like, falling in love with this game, being good at it, and becoming some of the best players in the entire world, it was a logical conclusion of their culture, their family culture, right? And you can see how this works. Here's the negative version. During the Vietnam War, United States troops, like I said in the course, I don't want to talk too much about the Vietnam War. I'll get all political, and I don't want to do that. But the troops who were over there were in a really rough situation, and they ended up using heroin. A lot of them ended up using heroin. It's a very widely studied thing. The U.S. government knew that so many of these young soldiers were addicted to heroin and they were going to come home. And so they were prepared to receive this huge wave of heroin addicts into the United States. And what happened when they got home was that 90% of them spontaneously stopped being addicted to heroin, which is, one of the most addictive substances that we even know anything about, right? So basically, when they left that environment, they left that behavior behind, even though there's a very powerful chemical pull to be addicted to it, right? So environment conditions behavior. This is James Clear's constant refrain. He says, in one study, researchers found that 90% of heroin users in Vietnam eliminated their addiction nearly overnight by simply changing their environment. Compare that with the standard treatment in the United States, where 90% of patients relapse after rehab. Environment is the invisible hand that shapes human behavior. From 12. Very well written. Now, what he's basically saying is, you take somebody who's in a war and they're using this drug, and then they go back to their own environment. There are about 20 different reasons no longer pushing them towards the drug behavior. Never mind that they probably don't know where to find it if they were going to look at it here because they were in another country. People that go to rehab, however, you have them in their life, you pull them out of their life, you put them into rehab, and they do fine. And then you take them out of rehab and put them back into their life. Well, that environment is all there again, and elements of that environment compel them to use, right? So this is an idea that comes from James Clear being an industrial organizational psychologist. He firmly believes that the best way to brainwash people is to change the environment, and he has a lot of great research to prove it. Yeah? Okay. So how do we use this positively, right? It's very easy to see how this kind of negative thing can pull you in. If I have friends that are a bunch of heroin addicts, I'm going to be train spotting, right? If I have a bunch of friends who are doing crazy triathlons all the time, I might get peer pressured into doing crazy triathlons all the time, right? So Clear, who's always about change your environment, has this great quote, and that's, join a culture where your desired behavior is the normal behavior. That's the key. We know that human beings want to conform, that as soon as we hit puberty, we start finding a group where we fit in so that we can feel comfortable. And that's the moment that we're basically adults. We immediately want to find a group and disappear into that group. We want to conform, and we feel good when we do that. It hurts to not conform, right? Everybody in Solomon Ash's experiment, they were all adults. They weren't high school students, right? So you can see that as soon as we mature, we really want to do that. He adds a way to do this in kind of double efficiency. Nerd fitness. You join a group where the group behavior is the desired behavior, but it's also a group of people you have a lot in common with. What does this mean? So a lot of people go to the gym for the very first time, and they look around and they see a bunch of people who look like they know what they're doing. They're moving around from machine to machine or station to station, and they're, doing these motions. They look like they know what they're doing. They seem to have their plan all laid out. And people who are new to the gym are like, I don't know what to do here. I really don't know what to do here. I wonder if people are looking at me and seeing if I don't know what the heck I'm doing. So joining a group of people who are already athletes would be difficult. But if you join somebody who's like not an athlete and you're going to go on this journey together and be beginners together, that would be the absolute holy grail, right? One of my favorite ideas in Atomic Habits. So how do we do this more generally? Brainwash yourself. This is from chapter 9. One of the most effective things you can do to build better habits is to join a culture where your desired behavior is the normal behavior. New habits seem achievable when you see others doing them every day. If you are surrounded by fit people, you're more likely to consider training as a normal part of life. If you're surrounded by successful entrepreneurs, you are more likely to think about building your own business. Whatever habits are normal in your culture are among the most attractive behaviors you'll find. That's super powerful. If we are going to be super conformists, as we see in Influence and Atomic Habits, and James Clear is a millionaire consultant. Like he's a millionaire because people bring him into businesses and say, hey, how do I better brainwash my employees in order to drive more success in my business? The IO psychologists get paid the most to do this, right? I think they know what they're talking about. So what are some examples of joining a culture where the desired behavior is the normal behavior? I work at a college of music. You don't need to get a degree in music to become a musician. But if you hang out with a bunch of musicians for 4 years, your constant practicing, thinking about different things, listening to different things, training, studying the history, you have immersed your whole self into this culture of constantly soaking up every aspect of this discipline. And you are greatly increasing your chances of being this thing that you have decided that you want to be on whatever level, right? It's not about success or popularity or anything like that. It's about changing yourself into somebody who's going to forever be swimming in the ocean of music, right? With all of these different aspects turned all the way up by all of these different groups. Who are your friends going to be? Probably a bunch of musicians, right? It's a really wonderful thing to do. The one that he mentions about fitness is as real as it gets. And you can see this with the gym and you can see this with sports. And I think they're separate. With the gym, you have people that want to, talk with you. They want to distract you in between your sets. And every now and again, you say, hey, how do you do a lat prayer? Oh, I don't know. Here, I think it's like this. I think it's like this. And then everybody's kind of like doing the same, motion. Or, hey, this is, so heavy that I think it's scary and I really want to challenge myself. Can you spot me? Spot me means like, if I think I'm not going to be able to get it, you pull it off of me and save me from myself, right? So having friends is wonderful. And like when you don't see your friends in the gym, you think, hey, where are you? Come on back. Let's get after it. And if you have somebody, I've seen people who have training partners who will, they'll spot each other. They're usually doing a really similar routine. This is a wonderful, wonderful thing because, as I said above, it's a forcing function. It forces you to do what you decided you already wanted to do, right? A PhD is like this. Why would you read all this stuff, publish all this stuff, work so hard for so many years? It's because you've paid the money, you've signed up, you've set yourself on these rails. Everybody in your world knows that you're doing it. They're waiting for you to finish your dissertation so they can call you a doctor, right? You've built a bunch of forcing functions without which you wouldn't be acting that way, right? Because you put a gun to your head. You put some kind of thing in your life that forces you to do that. The gun to your head can be a friend. And that friend can be like, hey, we're playing 5-a-side soccer, football. I know it's football. I'm American and I'm terrible at it, so I call it soccer. We're playing 5-a-side football. If you're not there, we're missing a person and we can't play. So you have to come, even if you're tired, right? Even if you got stuff to do, even because this is what you decided that you wanted to do before. And so now, yeah, it's a little bit of a pain, but you're coming. You're coming because we need you. Come on, dude, right? This is a forcing function. So in the realm of exercise, this is the simplest slide in the whole world because this is also something that like people really want to do because it's good for absolutely everything in your life. And it's hard to do. It's hard to start when you don't want to do it. The research about depression and exercise is depressing because exercise just straight up fixes depression. If I can't exercise, I get depressed. If I do exercise, I'm not depressed. It's like an on-off switch for me 100% of the time. Like I probably wouldn't exercise if the depression didn't show up about 10 days after the last time I exercised.
Caveat, it doesn't fix everybody's depression all of the time.
So how do you get yourself to be somebody who exercises from zero? A lot of people give you these complicated ideas. I'm going to give you the easiest idea in the world. Level 1 is I like it, right? So you just try different stuff. It could be walking, it could be running, it could be swimming, it could be water polo, badminton, it could be volleyball, it could be football, it could be basketball, it could be table tennis, it could be anything that is going to be more exercise than you're currently doing. And if you're currently doing none, then anything is better. And it doesn't matter what it is at all. If you like it, you're winning, right? So pick something that you like that gets your heart rate up, whatever that is. Once you have that, think about progress. And we'll cover that in a different place, in a different time. But you don't need progress at all until you find something that you like. Once you find something that you like, great. Just do that and do it a lot, right? Progress can involve doing it with friends, doing it consistently. If you do it consistently, you're winning, right? Because you're one more level up. And if you can build it into your life so that it will be automatic, that is the holy grail of behavior change. So James Clear talks about how your habits change your identity and how your identity changes your habits, right? You become the kind of person who does what? Exercise is what we just talked about, right? If you can find something that you like and then get yourself to do it, you might even become the kind of person who does the kinds of exercises that you don't actually like because you have these goals and because it's easy for you to do the ones that you like and because you also have these other goals and you're like, I don't like doing squats, but I do them because I now have these goals that involve doing it. I don't love it, but I do it and I'm happy with the results and whatever, right? Okay. So why is this true? This comes from Daniel Kahneman's book, Thinking Fast and Slow. He gave us the great idea that 95% of the things that we do not take any thought. I lecture so much that so much of my lecturing is even unconscious, right? 5% is actual rational decision making. You get tired from this stuff. It's a finite amount of willpower that you're going to run out of. Better to make it an easy habit that just happens. It's Thursday, I play football on Thursdays, right? And you can't not play football on Thursdays because then they're missing somebody. They need you, you have to go, right? It's automatic. Now, Clear talks about how systems are far more important than goals. Yeah, you can want something, but everybody wants basically the same thing. We all want to be healthy, we all want to be wealthy, we all want to be wise, but it's our systems that get us these things, right? Now, who does the system? It is the identity. The person does the process that gets you the outcomes. James Clear argues that most behavior change is focused on outcomes, focused on goals, and those are great. Goals are wonderful. But it's the identity that does the process that gets the outcome. If you're an athlete, if you're a football player, and you stop playing football for a little while, it's not that a friend even calls you. There's a bit of your identity that's not being satisfied that starts to wake up and says, hey, what are you doing? You know who you are. You're an athlete. You can't live like this. You got to get off the couch, get back on the field, right? This is kind of the holy grail of behavior change. And we talk about this a ton in the course, Change Your Life on Purpose. This is the final straw here. We learned about conformity today. And if peer pressure can make you say something that you know is false, imagine what it can do to your habits. It's not all bad, right? What if you intentionally surrounded yourself with people who already do what you want to do? That's not necessarily brainwashing. It's more like strategy. But I still like to say brainwash yourself. And I say it a lot in the course. It's called Change Your Life on Purpose. The link is in description if you want to dig into this stuff and not just think about it, but
Do it.
we got a course for you. Link in the description. See you on the other side.
Peace.